Welcome to this explainer. We are about to go on a seriously fascinating journey today. We're going to start all the way back with some of the absolute oldest, most profound philosophies of ancient India, and then we're going to fast forward right up to cutting-edge modern psychological therapies. The big focus? We want to understand the different views of non-dualism across a whole spectrum of traditions. We're talking ancient Indian spirituality, various sects of Buddhism, and modern teachers. And, most importantly, we're going to figure out exactly how these completely mind-bending philosophical views dovetail with actual boots-on-the-ground meditation practices. So, buckle up and prepare to have your everyday perspective completely shifted.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. First, we'll look at the illusion of separation. Second, we'll cover ancient Indian non-dual traditions. Third, we'll get into Buddhist emptiness and non-duality. Fourth, we're comparing gradual versus sudden awakening. And finally, we'll wrap up with modern non-dual mindfulness practices. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The illusion of separation. So I want you to think about your everyday human experience for a second. Almost all of us operate under this deep assumption that there's a really strict boundary between me, the person inside this body, and the universe out there, right? Well, non-duality, or Advaita, which literally means not two, totally flips the script. It asserts the fundamental unity of all existence. It flat out rejects any basic distinction between you, the observer, and the universe you're observing. In this view, getting to enlightenment isn't about gaining some cool new superpower. It's actually just recognizing what already is and what always has been.
To give this some real historical gravity, check out this powerful ancient quote from the Viveka Chudamani of Shankaracharya. It states, "Brahman alone is real, the world is illusory, and the individual self, or Atman, is none other than Brahman." I mean, wow! That essentially takes a sledgehammer to our everyday dualistic framework. It's basically telling us that your individual self and the ultimate reality of the universe are fundamentally the exact same thing. No separation at all.
Moving right along to Section 2, Ancient Indian Non-Dual Traditions. Now, it's important to point out that different ancient schools didn't all agree on exactly how to map this territory, and this brilliantly illustrates that nuance. On one side, we have Advaita Vedanta, which argues that Brahman is the sole reality, basically viewing the physical world as an illusion, or Maya. But contrast that with Kashmir Shaivism on the other side, which offers a radically different view. It also believes consciousness is the sole reality, sure, but it views the universe as a totally real, dynamic manifestation of that consciousness. So it doesn't tell you to escape the world, it tells you the world is the ultimate reality manifesting in physical form. Pretty wild, right? So you might be wondering, how did ancient practitioners even try to wrap their heads around an ultimate reality that is literally beyond the human mind? Well, Advaita Vedanta frequently used this really clever apophatic framing technique, famously captured in the phrase neti neti, which translates to not this, not this. The whole idea here is that ultimate reality defies all conventional human categories, language, and concepts. So rather than driving yourself crazy trying to define what non-duality is, you systematically strip away what it's not. You're not your thoughts, you're not your body, you're not your fleeting emotions. It really makes an incredibly elusive, abstract concept so much easier to digest.
All right, Section 3, Buddhist emptiness and non-duality.
While the Hindu traditions were busy exploring Brahman, Mahayana Buddhism was actually developing its own parallel articulation. Notice how the architecture kind of shifts across the traditions we see here. Look at the Madhyamaka Buddhism row. Instead of an ultimate substance, the focus there is on sunyadya, or emptiness. That means all phenomena lack an independent essence and arise dependently. Now, look a little further down at Zen and Dzogchen. Despite utilizing completely different terminology, they all share the exact same core contemplative goal, transcending the dualistic split between the observer and the observed. It's like they're all distinct, unique maps, but they're pointing to the exact same territory of human consciousness.
Which brings us to Section 4. Gradual versus sudden awakening.
Okay, philosophy is great and all, but how do these views actually dovetail with meditation? Let's use a metaphor. Imagine that our true, non-dual nature is the sun. It's always shining, it's always present. However, our habitual mental patterns and our rigid sense of ego, those are like dense clouds obstructing that brilliant sunshine. Now, both the gradual and the sudden meditative paths totally agree on this unconditioned nature. They just disagree on how to deal with the clouds.
Let's break that down. The gradual path, which you'll find in practices like Vipassana, involves working deliberately, step by step, to dismantle the dualistic mind.
It's all about slowly clearing away those clouds through incredibly deep concentration. On the flip side, the sudden path, which we see in Dzogchen Zen or Advaita, uses methods to instantly collapse the self-other dichotomy. It directly points out the sun that's already shining, basically telling you there is nowhere to go, because your awakened nature is already here. Right now, no waiting required.
Now for our final part, Section 5, Modern Non-Dual Mindfulness Practices.
Let's move to the 21st century and see how this builds into something super practical. How are these ancient, seemingly mystical concepts actively shaping modern psychological healing today? Well, teacher and psychotherapist Locke Kelly synthesizes non-dual meditation with modern frameworks in something he calls effortless mindfulness. Step 1 is ego identification. That's where most of us live, constantly caught in the problem-solving mind. Then, step 2 shifts into awake awareness, focusing on the context of your experience rather than getting lost in the contents. Finally, step 3 is resting in self-essence. This is where you realize non-dual presence as a calm, incredibly compassionate, healing capacity. It is literally applying ancient enlightenment directly to modern anxiety. A real game changer.
And there are quite a few actionable secular methods that modern practitioners use today to step out of this endless mental struggle and into the freedom of awake awareness. You've got practices like just being, which is exactly what it sounds like, resting the mind without any intention. Or the headless way. That's a modern visual exercise that forces you to totally re-examine your direct experience of having a head. No, really. And then there are mindful glimpses. These are quick micro-meditations you can do with your eyes open throughout the day to instantly access what Locke Kelly calls your awake loving flow. These methods essentially bypass decades of monastic training to give you a direct taste of the non-dual right here, right now.
In fact, let's try one of the most famous sudden path methods together right now. It's Ramana Maharshi's direct self-inquiry. I want you to ask yourself, who am I? When you strip away your name, your job, your memories, even your body, who is the I that is listening to my voice in this exact moment? Seriously, think about it. When you look deeply for the center of the self, you might just find a vast, open space instead of a solid thing.
So here is the absolute crucial point. Once you recognize that open space, the next step in modern practice isn't just to look at it as an object. I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative question from Locke Kelly's practice to chew on. Are you aware as this spacious awareness? Don't overthink the answer. Just experience it. Try to shift from being a person looking at awareness to being the awareness itself. Because, my friends, that is the true essence of non-duality. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this leaves you curious to explore the absolute boundless space of your own mind.